Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly suggested. The following is for educational and entertaining purposes only. This is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony of Sean Diddy. When Katt Williams stepped into the courtroom, no one laughed. The man known for outlandish quips and viral outbursts was suddenly under oath in what he said. For years, Katt had been shouting out names like Jay-Z, Tyler Perry, Kevin Hart, Steve Harvey, T.D. Jakes, and Ricky Smiley. People disregarded him as crazy, but suddenly those names are appearing in legal records linked to the Diddy probe. In court, Katt verified it all. The parties, the NDAs, the hidden cameras, the careers bought and sold under one man's empire. Did not just mention Diddy. He exposed a complete web of superstars who played their part to reach to the top. This wasn't a comedy special. It was a warning because Katt Williams didn't just pull receipts. He made sure the whole world saw them, and the people he called out, they may never recover from what he revealed. The courtroom didn't know what to make of it at first, reporters muttered. Social media erupted into pandemonium. But there he was, Katt Williams suited up and sober, entering through the courthouse doors not as a comic, but as a federal witness. No entourage, no ceremony, just a folder in one hand and a glare that could cut through concrete. When he sat down and was sworn in, the courtroom was hushed to full quiet. The same voice that once filled theaters with amusement started, "Let me say this one time under oath and without a punchline. I warned you years ago, and you laughed." He informed the eyes in court that anything they were about to hear wasn't new to him. He had been saying it for more than a decade, but people ignored him because of how he packaged the facts. "When you make people laugh, they forget to listen," he said. But I wasn't just delivering jokes. I was inserting facts between the punchlines. Katt stated that years ago he began observing a pattern. The same set of celebrities getting invited to the same elite events, departing for a period, and then returning with movie deals, accolades, or distribution contracts. Brother at the bottom of the A-list 1 year, then boom 3 months after a certain party. He's starring in blockbusters. Then he revealed his first bombshell. Katt went on to claim that Diddy wasn't simply a music entrepreneur, but also the gatekeeper to a darker side of Hollywood. "It ain't about music anymore," he added. "It's about control, who you know what you're prepared to do and what you'll keep silent about." And then he said something terrifying. "I'm not here because I want to be. I'm here because if I don't talk now, I'll be next." With that, the stage was set. When requested to offer names, Katt did not flinch, saying, "Cool, I have names." Jay-Z began mentioning them one by one. Tyler Perry, Kevin Hart, Ricky Smiley, Steve Harvey, Ludacris, LeBron James, T.D., Jake Ashton Kutcher, and Justin Bieber were among the names that sent shockwaves through the crowd. Associates. These were some of the top names in the entertainment business. Katt stated that they had all attended parties, events, or meetings organized or facilitated by Diddy. Gatherings weren't the glamorous Hollywood get-togethers the public thought they were. These events, he added, weren't about celebration, but about initiation. He explained that Diddy used the parties, phones were confiscated, NDAs were signed, and cameras were still rolling. "Do you think it's a coincidence that all these dudes toe the same line and protect the same people?" Nah, they know. Katt claimed Diddy stored dirt on everyone, taped images, emails, and used it as insurance. He doesn't just collect blackmail, he makes it. People walk into such events clean. They leave with something on them they can't scrub off. And then he pointed out the patterns. Actors obtaining sudden green lights on films, comedians landing stadium tours. With no prior buildup, performers emerging, on radio with little promotion but rapid backing from Diddy-connected stations. You think talent alone gets you there? Please, half the people I named would not even sell out a high school gym without that machine behind them. Katt closed that part of his testimony with this: "I'm not suggesting everyone at those parties participated in what transpired. I'm saying they all knew what was going on and didn't say a damn thing, which makes them complicit." If there was one name that caused obvious uneasiness through the courtroom, it was Tyler Perry, and Katt knew it. He locked eyes with Diddy before turning to the jury and said, Let's talk about media. He began by clarifying, this isn't about gender or performance. This is about symbolism, ritual, and power. You think a billion-dollar studio just appeared because someone wore a wig and made church jokes? Nah, that was a trade. Katt said that Tyler Perry's first ascension, his breakout plays, his first studio deals, and even his initial film premieres were all funded by Diddy's network. He said that Bad Boy personnel coordinated press passes for early showing of Diary of a Mad Black Woman and Ma's Family Reunion. He didn't merely find success, he was ushered into it, and scheduling superstars. That wasn't random, that was planned. They handed him a path in exchange for loyalty. Then, Katt dropped another bombshell. Tyler urged his male actors not to mingle with me. I know why, because I saw him at one of those parties having a fantastic time. He claimed that Tyler, once fully embraced by Hollywood, sought to distance himself from anyone who could speak out the truth. He didn't want the world to know who helped him climb because people would wonder why. Katt also listed several performers who changed dramatically after working with Perry Lamb and Rucker Time and Durant. Look at how they were before. Look at what occurred after. Finally, Katt unleashed the phrase that would go viral within minutes. Every year there is a new media, a new hairdo, and a new check. But never once has he utilized his platform to speak about what truly goes on behind those velvet ropes. He paused and remarked, "That's not entertainment, that's obedience." When Kevin Hart's name came up, Katt Williams didn't hesitate. He glanced at the jury and stated, "Let's speak about the golden boy." Katt stated that Kevin Hart's spectacular climb wasn't solely due to hard work and talent. You think Kevin went from BT Comic View to billion-dollar franchises by accident? You think it's normal to go from canceled sitcoms to headlining stadiums in under 5 years? Nah, that's what happens when you say yes. Subsequently addressed the iconic comment that fired up the internet. His statement about rejecting down $50 million to retain his integrity and his virgin hole. He said it was more than a punchline. That was me telling the world that Kevin said yes to something I wouldn't, something real, something that doesn't get talked about in Hollywood unless it's in a whisper. According to Katt, Kevin Hart's professional boom began quickly after his participation with certain producers linked to Diddy's financial network. Look at the timeline, the movies, the Netflix agreement, the collaborations. Kevin was also seen at several private Diddy-hosted parties, including one in Miami in 2013 that purportedly had a gold. The room layout was identical to what Cassie Ventura had testified to in her own case. But the true surprise came when Katt revealed Kevin wasn't just a party guest, but a handler. He was the smiling face, the distraction he helped make prospective recruits feel safe and comfortable. That's why he was always in the room but never caught in the tape. Katt added that when he refused a similar offer, deals began to evaporate. Tours were canceled and Kevin was given the green light for ride-along Night School Jumanji. You don't get 3 franchise hits back-to-back. Return until someone upstairs signed off. He closed with a cold truth. They say Kevin Hart is amusing, but that laugh came with a price and I wasn't willing to pay it. Katt's focus then shifted to 2 more people he claimed had much to do with Diddy's success and whose careers were exploited to legitimize the power structure behind the scenes, Ricky Smiley and Steve Harvey. He began with Ricky. You ever wonder how Ricky Smiley got from prank calls to headlining movies and syndicated radio shows? It wasn't the jokes. It was the dress. Katt disclosed Ricky's breakthrough into TV and cinema arrived only after he attended a series of Atlanta-based parties organized by Puffy's Southern crew. They weren't open invitations. They were groomed lists of people who could be useful or silent, those who would cooperate. Then came the bombshell. I put it in my contract that I wouldn't work with Ricky again until he was in a dress. Why? Because there's where he's most credible. I wanted the world. Katt claimed that Ricky's first Sunday job, in which he appeared in a wig and dress, was the exact condition he placed to uncover the pattern. You want that bag, you know what to do. And he did it. Then came Steve Harvey Katt, who nicknamed him the godfather of commercial obedience. He stated that Steve progressed through the ranks not just by playing the media game, but by he observed what Diddy was doing. And instead of saying anything, He invited his daughter to dinner with the man. Katt addressed Lori Harvey's much-discussed relationship with Diddy. Steve stood next to him smiling even after his daughter had previously dated Diddy's son, Justin. What father? Does that one who's in too deep? He also accused Steve of stealing ideas, including a television. The Steve Harvey Show was the format that Katt had circulated in the early 2000s. They changed the name, changed the city, and handed it to the guy who said yes. Katt didn't hold back. Steve Harvey established his fame hosting shows, authoring books, and playing pastor. But he never opened his tongue when it counted. That silence is costly. The courtroom tightened when Katt stated the next name, TD Jakes. He didn't laugh or sneer. He stated it slowly, as if loading the final round into a chamber. Let me explain how this works. Sneaking into the newspapers when the murmurs grow too loud, the industry doesn't flee at praise. Or at least they make it look like they do. He accused Diddy's public relations staff of exploiting the church, as you think TD Jake preaching at Diddy-sponsored gospel performances was about salvation. Nah, it was about cleansing his image. Katt said TD Jake gave a holy filter for they held concerts with velvet ropes, had gold-plated communion tables, and VIP seating for a gospel show. He said that Jake personally discouraged others, gospel performers from coming out about what they saw at crossover events related to bad boy entertainment. They were urged to keep silent because it would harm the church's ministry. But what about then came the charge that made headlines. TD Jake didn't only pray over Diddy, he helped clean up after him. Katt stated that church donations, $1,000,000 checks, and press-worthy charity events were all part of the cover. And if you were a spiritual leader who asked too many questions, you were pushed out, didn't receive television, and didn't get book agreements. Katt even stated TD Jake knew about a famous sex scandal related to one of Diddy's staffers, but declined to go public. He encouraged them to handle it internally. This is not what a pastor does. He closed with this: there's nothing wrong with God, but there's a whole lot wrong with the people pretending to speak for him. And when you use faith to cover up sin, you ain't no. Katt Williams glanced directly at the jurors and then at the prosecution, calmly saying, "You want to know why nobody says anything? It's because everybody knows they are being monitored." He revealed that for years people whispered about what went down at Diddy's fabled parties, the candles, the gilded chambers, celebrities entering one way and departing changed. But the actual secret wasn't what happened, but how it was captured. Katt said that many insiders warned him about high-tech surveillance into the residences and hotels utilized for Diddy's private functions. These weren't doorbell cameras, he added. We're talking pinhole lenses and furniture ceiling tiles that weren't ceiling tiles. Encrypted backups were transferred to servers that did not belong to Diddy, but rather to his crew. According to Katt, the aim wasn't only security but also leverage. You walk into one of those rooms and around and suddenly Diddy's got you. Doesn't matter if you're famous, rich, straight, gay, cheating, whatever. He's got proof. And once he's got it, you either remain quiet or you're done. He said that several top celebrities have confided in him over the years, not only about what they witnessed, but also about supposed footage. One brother told me, "If they ever reveal what they have on me, I'll never work again. My family will disown me." Katt refused to name him, but said the fear was real. He brought up the now notorious comment from Ashton Kutcher. What happens at a Diddy party stays at a Diddy party. And then Katt asked the audience, "Why do you think they say that? Because they know what happens and what's being filmed." He connected these records to the abrupt quiet of numerous great musicians who formerly hinted at something worse, just to vanish rapidly, pivot genres, or start humanitarian rebranding. He said that blackmail, it wasn't just a theory, it was a system. The recordings weren't random, they were cataloged, dated, and weaponized. He stopped before finishing. This isn't just about freak-offs and sex tapes. Control. He developed a digital vault, and everybody who ever got too comfortable at one of those parties is probably in it. As the gallery sat astonished, Katt leaned into his next point. Let's talk about. He began by citing Dave Chappelle, who famously walked away from $50 million. People called him insane and said he moved to Africa. But if you watched his specials, actually watched, and he was telling you something. He said the worst thing to label somebody crazy is dismissive, and that's what they did to him because he refused to play ball. Then Hugh Martin Lawrence. Remember when he was rushing in the streets carrying a gun and yelling, "They're trying to kill me"? That wasn't simply a breakdown. Someone crumbling under strain, attempting to warn us. Katt claimed that these weren't individual meltdowns. They were the outcome of trying to escape the machine. You don't just resign. You don't just say no. You've seen what they've seen. He spoke of Jaguar, correct, I'll be sure, and others labeled crazy for speaking about Kim Porter's death or Diddy's parties. It's the same game, Katt added. They call you a liar, then they call you insane, and eventually you disappear. Then he pointed to himself. Y'all remember when they said I was on drugs and I was losing it? I wasn't high. I was upset because I saw I attempted to warn others about how this system works, but instead of listening, they laughed. He said that after calling out Diddy in earlier interviews, he was audited, banned, and even 3 black SUVs with no plates stood outside my house for weeks and no one would touch the story, Katt revealed. That's why so many celebs stay silent. They've seen what happens when you speak, so they stay in line, they take the bargains, they keep smiling. He concluded with a strong statement. Hollywood doesn't destroy you with violence. It destroys you. With quiet, with labels, with exile. And I know because they tried it with me. As Katt stood for his concluding words, the courtroom wasn't just listening. It was holding its breath. He turned towards Diddy, then returned to the jury, saying, Y'all think this is about parties and scandal, but it's not. This is about power and who's willing to do what to keep it. He further stated that the entertainment industry had become, when a new musician gets a deal or a comedian gets a Netflix special, ask yourself what they agreed to and who's really behind that green light. He called out the record labels, executives, handlers, and gatekeepers. It's not just Diddy. He's the face, the puppet, but there's an entire system behind him. And they're all complicit. Katt then delivered one final terrible fact. They also asked me to sign something and offered me a check that would have altered my life. All I had to do was never talk about what I saw, and I said no. He turned to the judge and said, I'm not suicidal, I don't own a gun, I love my family. And if anything happens to me after this, just know I didn't do it. The courtroom sat in stunned stillness. Katt continued softer now. I made jokes, I warned you, through comedy. Because if I said it straight, they'd take me out, but now that I've said it simple English on camera, and the world knows, he stared into the crowd, his voice shaking. To those who think they're protected, your time is coming. To the victims, who are still terrified, I see you. Diddy locked eyes with him. You didn't just wreck lives, you built an empire on them. But today, as Katt stepped down from the stand, that empire began to crumble. There was no clapping, no cameras. Just as Katt approached the courtroom exit, the judge inquired, Mr. Williams, is there anything further you'd like to add for the record? Katt hesitated. He turned back slowly as if the weight of decades had been lifted but not eliminated. Yeah, he muttered, now peering at the reporters, at the cameras, at the empty notepad in the stenographer's lap. There's one more thing. He took a deep breath and aimed his finger not at one individual but at the entire room, all waiting for the next news on who gets indicted next. But what you're actually waiting for is permission. Permission to admit that you've known. This was actual. The entire time you witnessed. You have heard the rumors, but I did not want to believe your favorite. The artist was involved. You didn't want to. I assume your preferred preacher was complicit, or your favorite actor sold their soul only to get a franchise contract. He went on to say, this isn't new, even about me. It is about a generation that has been lied to, deceived, and fed. Images of triumph while being concealed from the truth. Fame is a carrot. Behind the curtain, there is a price. Some people pay with their bodies, some with their silence. Others with Katt walked closer to I've lowered my voice in the jury box. Watched too many excellent individuals disappear. Kim Porter and Andre Harrell are two people who I wanted to talk, but never had the chance. And now I'm here because I actually have because I shall talk. He raised his one last time to everyone who believes I'm simply a comic, which I am. I am also a witness, and what I have seen will not be forgotten. He took a step back and nodded. Once at the judge, he walked out. Courtroom, not with fanfare. Applause. With something considerably heavier, truth, accompanied by a caution. Everything that was once concealed is now in. Sealed is now in.